Normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
We got breaking news. This actually broke about an hour ago, but we'll get into it right now. From ABC, special prosecutor files 9 tax-related felony charges against Hunter Biden. Special counsel David Weiss has filed additional charges. Let me refresh to get the latest information. The indictment, in the indictment, prosecutors allege Hunter Biden engaged in a 4-year scheme to not pay at least $1.4 million in self-assessed federal taxes he owed for the years 2016 through 19, from in or about January 2017 to October 15th, 2020, and to evade the assessment of taxes for tax year 2018 when he filed false returns in or about February 2020. Is this how they bring down Joe Biden?
I like Joe Biden. That's how they got taxes. How they got Al Capone.
Right, but I'm not saying this right here is how they get Joe Biden. I'm saying this is in relation to one by one. You get these death by 1,000 cuts of Hunter Biden, and then eventually someone goes, "Hey, wait a minute!" One of these threads goes to Joe, and then Joe, embattled, says, "Look, I'm going to step down. You know, these allegations are false, but."
That's you saw the MSNBC clip where they're interviewing Joe Biden. They're asking him questions like, "So what do you have to say about these conversations you've had with Hunter's associates when you were lying?" And he's like, "It's not true. You're lying. You're all lies. You're all lying. You're all liars."
Dog face pony soldiers. All of you.
To answer your question, Tim, yes, I think this is the track. They're going after the Bidens now, and then maybe they'll use the same kind of tax crap to go after Trump. I don't know if they hitting him on tax charges.
Let's pull up this clip because it's kind of crazy to see. Here's a clip of Joe Biden being questioned on MSNBC.
Biden on Ukraine and also China. There's polling by the Associated Press that shows that almost 70% of Americans, including 40% of Democrats, believe that you acted either illegally or unethically in regards to your family's business interests. Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not, and it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
It's a comment, isn't it?
I did not. There's lies.
I did not. I keep hearing Tommy Wiseau.
70%. 70%. 40% of Democrats think he acted illegally. That's MSNBC saying this.
That's crazy, man.
I don't see how Biden ends up the nominee.
I don't either. But at the same time, because I know that, they're all about that. What's their goal? Their goal is power, right? So I've always thought that he's the perfect front man for what they're doing, because as they destroy the country systematically, they got the perfect fall guy out there. Yep. The guy can't put together a sentence. He falls constantly. They've got clearly a ton of dirt on him, so he's got to do what they say. And he's wanted to be president forever. So it's like, why? And as the country collapses on his watch, they can blame him. So I think he's the perfect fall guy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the old bait and switch and see a guy like Newsom get thrown in there either. So we'll see what happens, man. But
I wonder what the prediction markets have Newsom at right now. I'm going to check, actually.
I don't even know which one's worse. I don't even know what would be worse for the country, honestly.
I think it's Mr. Surrender Afghanistan is probably worse. This guy surrendered the most powerful military on earth to the Taliban and $80 billion worth of equipment he surrendered. How many people died over there in that surrender?
19 people died in the bomb that went off.
And women trying to throw their babies over barbed wire to get them inside a military base. The babies are getting caught in the wire. That's because of him. He made that call to get rid of Bagram Air Force Base, air superiority, and just left everybody in the lurch with the rushed surrender. The most terrible military executive I've ever seen in power in the United States.
I agree, but I don't, a lot of people think Biden's in charge or someone's pulling the leash. And I'm kind of like, no, I think they're letting him flounder. They're sitting back watching and just letting it roll out because, like you said, when it all comes crashing down, they want to burn it down. They want to replace it with something else. They just blame Biden and then he's gone. He's their patsy.
Perfect fall guy. But you're right. It is scary. It's one of Afghanistan was definitely one of the big massive failures. I was in the SEAL teams for a little bit, and one of the things that scared me or concerned me when I was looking at the list of gear left behind was all the night vision goggles, because as when you're operating overseas, a lot of times we would almost exclusively operate at night because we own the night, right? But now that these guys have all that night vision equipment, that's going to make it really difficult for any of our troops or any of our allies that are fighting at night. And, that definitely takes our superiority and our advantage down.
I don't know how many they actually
notch.
left, but that they're not staying in Afghanistan either. It's getting into combat zones all over the world. And anybody that's got, played around with night vision, it is a completely different thing to be able to see at night when the people that you're going after can't see it.
No, look, I think most city people, there's a lot of people listening right now who are going to be like, nah, most city people don't know what nighttime is like.
Yeah.
So when in that famous story about LA, power goes out, the police get a bunch of phone calls about something strange in the sky. It was the first time they'd seen the Milky Way.
Yeah.
So when the lights are all out and it's dark. So when we have a new moon out here where we're at, we have lights set up on the side of the driveway. We have motion lights, not just for us to be able to see, but for security reasons too. But you walk down the driveway during a new moon, it is pitch black.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're blind 100%. You put on the night vision goggles we got, and it is daylight.
Yeah.
We also have daylight flashlights, which are cool too, though.
No, it's true, man. It's one of the most surreal experiences that I've ever had walking through one of the, very big cities, some of the most violent cities in the world. But nobody's on the streets but you and a couple of your buddies patrolling. And that's why. It's because we have that technology and they don't. And now you see it left behind like that, and it's just like
first time you put them on and you could see satellites. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the movie Step Brothers, right?
Yeah.
Were you in when they had panos?
Yeah.
Did you?
What's a pano?
Or you mean are you talking
four?
about the binos? No.
No, the 4. Yeah.
No, I did. I never had I never had those. I always had the binos.
Yeah.
What are the pinos?
Binos are just 2
or 4.
What is the other one you called them?
Panos. There's 4 tubes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can actually see a wider range. Yeah. So when I first time I ever used them was actually like 2 years ago or whatever. I bought a pair, and you look at the sky, and there's a satellite. Yeah. It's insane.
They're shooting stars, like they're up there happening right now, and you just
oh yeah. You're seeing them go shooting across when you're wearing those things. It's nuts. And then you're like walking around like I can see everything. Perfectly. It's crazy.
Ian,
how much do those cost? How do we get those?
Those are $42,000.
Oh wow!
How many of those were left?
I don't know about
were
that.
surrendered? Do you know offhand roughly how many?
He could Google it right now. I know it wasn't 15 of them. It was
a lot.
thousands.
They probably actually left binos. They probably didn't leave panos. Panos are the really high expensive ones. Only that he was on SEAL. That's why I asked, because the SEAL teams in Delta are the guys that get panos. Everyone else gets binos.
Plans, guns, and night vision. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. I don't see how Afghanistan was an accident. How do you don't accidentally abandon your Air Force base in the middle of the night without telling your partners?
Yeah. That one's tough to explain.
So what do you do in the military? You served it with the SEALs. Like, if your commander orders a surrender like abruptly that causes mass death and loss of equipment and life, like what happens to that commander?
I guess it depends on who the leadership at the top is, right? The military, I think for a long time had been spared from a lot of the insanity of this culture. But even over the last couple of years, you've seen, it infect the military as well. Like we had an Air Force admiral in Homeland Security, I think this last week, and he was talking about some of their issues, and one of their big issues was recruitment. And I asked him, do you think it has anything to do with the, DEI training? Do you think it has anything to do with, drag shows on base, that type of stuff that never really was in the military? And he's like, no, and he chalked it up to COVID. And I asked him, well, do you think it has anything to do with forcing our service members to take an experimental vaccine? And, basically he was like, well, I don't know about that. And I was like, because now the armed forces are actually offering these guys that didn't take the vaccine to come back in.
Yeah.
Right. And they said, oh, and we'll clear your record. Right. After they forced them out, many of them had families, had to find a new job, whatever. And they didn't get on. I don't believe they got honorable discharges. Right.
I think it was administrative, wasn't it?
I don't remember. You might be right, Tim. But I asked him, do you think that had anything to do with it? And he basically said, I'm not able to comment on that.
Who was that?
It was some Air Force, or I'm sorry, not Air Force. It was the Coast Guard admiral.
General discharge under honorable conditions.
Okay.
So that's what I guess is being reported.
Just so that admiral knows, if you own up to the truth, they'll be more likely to re-enlist. Yeah, it was because they were forced to take a vaccine that they didn't trust and they quit because of it, or they were discharged because of it, and now they're being asked to come back. Like, what? Have some humility, guy, admiral. Well,
that's the problem. Like, the military is one of the most dangerous jobs you can have, and if you don't have any faith that leadership's not going to sell you out, if you believe that your leadership will stab you in the back, so they can continue to get promoted, how many people do you think are going to join? And that's the thing. It's like a lot of these young kids, and I think there's multiple issues there, but a lot of these young kids don't trust the leadership that they just saw, be in charge of the debacle in Afghanistan, and that, forced a bunch of our troops to get an experimental vaccine. And now that they can't recruit kids to come back in, they're offering, hey, to bring them back. It's a complete leadership disaster.
What do you think would be a good incentive to get people back?
Well, I think an apology to start with would be really nice, and these guys taking ownership and be like, "Hey, we screwed up. Okay, we screwed up." Secondly, like my little brother, when he was a Cobra pilot in the Marine Corps, I think he was on his last year in the Marine Corps and was basically told, "You're getting the vaccine or you're out." And so my little brother went to the Naval Academy. Like, flew helicopters, high performing guy.
Actual officer, not warrant up.
Yeah, and he was an O, and he lost his retirement because he wouldn't put that in his body.
Wow.
And so you got to take care of those. You got to take care of those guys, and then you got to take care of the folks that are injured now because of the vaccine as well, and just make them feel like, hey, we got your back. Because if you don't got my back when it comes to this stuff right here, I don't think you're going to have my back when we're going to war against the CCP or we're going to war against Iran. And I'm out there by myself and I need some air support.
And to the point that you were making earlier about cultural Marxism and stuff, the goal of that kind of stuff is to shake people's faith in our system in the United States. And so if you've got, graduating class after graduating class after graduating class being churned out of high schools and colleges that have been taught that America's not really all that good, America's not worth fighting for, America's a bad force, a force for evil in the world, America's the villain on the global scale normally, and generally that's the role that the U.S. has had since the end of World War II. If that's what you've been taught, why would you join the military to serve the government?
Right.
Like, there's no reason to.
I want to do like a mini segment real quick. Have you guys heard about what's going on with Venezuela and Guyana?
Yeah.
No, what's happening?
Venezuela's declaring ownership of the western portion of the nation of Guyana and amassing its military. And now Guyana is requesting U.S. aid to prevent the invasion.
It's over half of the country that they're making a claim to. It's not just a small part.
Socialists want stuff for free.
And so part of the reason why they're doing this is because ExxonMobil was just doing explorations out off the Ghana coast, and so they want to go after Ghana's basically Guyana's oil.
Ghana's on the other continent.
Yeah, no, my bad. Guyana and Ghana, and so they're going out. So it's after the capitalists have done the exploring to find the oil reserves that you would only be able to find with tools provided or invented for capitalist exploration, and now the socialists like, yo, that's mine.
But,
give me that.
I just want to say, like, you've got Middle Eastern conflict, you've got Eastern European conflict. You now have an escalating
together.
Was it?
You're tying it together, yeah.
Oh yeah. Now you got South American conflict, and Southeast Asia is right on the horizon too.
And also,
it's on fire.
This would be a world war.
Also, with the stuff going on in South America, there is the Monroe Doctrine that we have to worry about. If there's anyone that decides that they're going to support Venezuela, that would be from from Asia or from whether it be Russia or China or whatever.
Iran.
If they decide that they want to support Venezuela, then the U.S. has the Monroe Doctrine, which is saying that no one from any other part from the Eastern Hemisphere has any business being in the Western Hemisphere. This is totally the domain of the United States, and we will not accept countries from Europe or from Asia or from the Middle East or from Africa meddling in North or South America. We just totally reject it out of hand. And so now the U.S. is in a situation where if anyone does decide to go ahead and support Venezuela, then the U.S. is going to talk about the Monroe Doctrine and say, you can't be here.
I don't think it even matters if Russia, Iran, or China gets involved with Venezuela. The fact is, if we have war in South America, war in Southeast Asia, war in Eastern Europe, war in the Middle East, you've got world war.
That's kind of how World War II, like Mussolini started that with his North African conquest. He gave Hitler the green light, basically. He was like, hey, look, you can conquer your neighbors and no one's stopping me. And then Hitler was like, "Ooh, wow, I like that."
And Japan, it's not like these are neighboring countries.
Yep,
Japan's
it's just like
war was totally different.
You do it, which justifies that guy doing it, which justifies that guy doing it, and then you've got like a smash and grab situation where everyone's like, "Well, before this is over, I'm going to see if I can get a piece."
Maybe not justify, but basically creates the opportunity.
Yeah, justify in their own minds, I should say. I mean, is there really ever a justification for offensive war? I don't know.
Yeah, but the scarier thing, I suppose, is, as Phil's bringing up with the Monroe Doctrine, is Guyana is asking the U.S. to prevent the invasion.
Yeah. So what do you guys think we should?
Are we going to get involved in war in Venezuela?
I don't think so, but I'd rather have our aircraft carriers there than in the
I agree.
Red Sea or something.
I agree, because we're talking about having our forces in the Gulf.
All I can say is I'm missing some mean tweets right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you involved with this kind of the military stuff in the Congress?
I mean, it's like involved in the function of funding. That's the power of the purse is probably the biggest tool that Congress has. And so funding the military and then also funding, I would say our projects overseas and foreign affairs, that's a lot of Congress's. And obviously Congress can declare war as well, but that doesn't happen too often.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.